Australia, the sixth largest country on Earth. An ancient, rugged, and unforgiving land with abundant animal life, both beautiful and deadly. Found within its awe-inspiring landscapes and natural beauty exists a deep history of unexplained mysteries for anyone with the courage to investigate them. Tonight, we join Ben on a journey across this vast island continent in search of answers to events that have reshaped the lives of so many that have been exposed to Unexplained Phenomena Australia. With your host, Ben Hurl.
G'day everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unexplained Phenomena Australia. I've got a really very interesting show for you tonight, and joining me is Deanne Norman from the Mornington Peninsula Paranormal Society. Now, Deanne has been interested in the paranormal for over 30 years, and her first experience was at the age of 8, and she has had many other exciting experiences since that time. Deanne spent her teenage years in Junee in New South Wales, where the famous Monte Cristo house is, which is the famous haunted house. And she spent many hours on tours exploring the grounds with many paranormal experiences. Deanne's interest peaked in her late teens and early 20s, and she's been investigating the paranormal ever since. And Deanne's aim is to bring the paranormal to the light, not only to prove its existence, but to work out why it's around us. Deanne is also interested in all aspects of the paranormal, including aliens, UFOs/UAPs, and cryptids. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Deanne to the show. I'll bring her in now.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
That's great. So I thought we'd start by just sort of discussing you, first of all.
Yeah.
And then we'll sort of have a discussion about the group and the group's activities.
Sure.
And then maybe sort of some of the phenomena in general at the end of that.
Yep.
So, and I wanted to sort of just kick off with a bit of a rundown on sort of how I came to know you as well.
Yep.
I actually also wear many hats, not just this one.
Yeah.
And I do 2 paranormal podcasts. So I do Unexplained Phenomena Australia and Strange Encounters Down Under with Cheryl Gottschall, which you were on a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And as another outside interest, I also do true crime. So basically, if it's a mystery, I get very excited by mysteries of all sorts. So whether they're paranormally related or whether it's a whodunit, that's the things that really, really appeal to me.
Yep.
And about 2 years ago, I started a Facebook page that was to do with the Frankston and Tynong North serial murders of 6 women who were killed in 1980 and 1981. And it's never been solved in all these years, like suspects and all that sort of stuff, but it's never really been solved. So, and I'll just quickly bring that up. So this is that page that I've got. So it's the Frankston Tynong North Murders, a Cold Case Investigation. So that's the page. And I was invited by your group to come along and sort of see and what you guys do, because you did an investigation into the Frankston Tynong North murders.
Yeah.
So that's how I got to meet you a few weeks ago, and that was really, 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 really great experience, and opened my eyes up a lot too, because I've sort of really only come at the phenomenon from a UFO perspective. That's my main. Anyone who watches this show knows that's my main passion in life. But we do look at other aspects of the paranormal. And just for a bit of orientation for people around the world who watch this show, this is the area we're talking about. So the Mornington Peninsula is where that dropper is. So, which is on that that peninsula that comes around just in the southeast of Melbourne. So when we're talking about the Mornington Peninsula Paranormal Society, that's their area around there. Not just exclusive to that area, but that's sort of the area where they function. And this is the website too. So just pop that up too, just to give us a just a little bit of an orientation, so everybody knows what's going on. Yeah. So we'll start with you. What brought you to the paranormal? Where did it all begin? And maybe walk us through the early days, some of those experiences, talking about the Monte Cristo experience and where you're up to today. I know it's a fair bit of coverage.
Yeah, it's 30 odd years.
30 years in one question. So
I'll try and summarize a bit for you.
Yeah. So over to you.
Okay, so my first experience, I was about 8 years old, and there used to be this little boy that would come and stand beside my bed. Now, I only ever saw him once, but once was kind of enough, and he was around my age, and I just remember waking up one night, and here he was sort of standing beside me, looking at me, and I've obviously screamed for my mum because I didn't know what was going on. I thought there was a boy in our house. And she's come like running into the bedroom. And as she's kind of come in the room, he's just faded away. And I'm telling her, like, and I'm shaking and crying, and I'm telling her what I've seen. And she believed me 100% because I found out later on that she had seen that boy a couple times herself.
That's interesting.
So that was my first ever experience. And then, learning that, and Mum sort of sat me down and had a conversation with me about it. And that kind of made me ghosts. Like, I remember as a kid thinking, ghosts, what a ghost, like thinking it's a monster situation, not understanding at all. So then later on as a teen, we moved from, I was on the Mornington Peninsula at that point when I was 8, and we moved from there to Junee, and that's when I learned about Monte Cristo. And I remember the boy story. I can remember that. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go up to Monte Cristo. I want to know what this ghost house is all about. So I went there, and I had a few experiences there that piqued my interest even more. So then I was a bit of a nerd at high school. I used to go into the library and read encyclopedias and stuff. And I can remember that I'd anything paranormal, I'd look at ghosts. I'd be flicking through the encyclopedia trying to find ghosts and what they were and anything like that. And then I kind of went away from it a little bit. I think in my late sort of 16 onwards till I was about 19, I got interested in other things, and I kind of just left that a little bit. And then I had my daughter, and life kind of got ahead of me a bit. And then back, I was still very interested though. And I would occasionally, if a friend said to me that they thought they had something in their house, I'd go and do it like an investigation. I'd take an old digital recorder that I had and my old film camera that I had back then and take photos and stuff and do it that way. And then I actually stumbled across Martine, who is the owner of Mornington Peninsula Paranormal Society, back in 2018. And I just sent her a message and just sort of said, hey, I'm been a researcher and investigator almost my whole life. Be happy to join up, volunteer my time. And then the kind of rest is history. I've been with MPPS now for 4 years. I'm co-manager and I'm lead investigator for it.
Wow, you've done extremely well.
Yeah, and it's to be in that position. I remember as a kid or teenager kind of thinking I'd love to run my own paranormal team one day, and to actually be here doing that is like a dream come true. It's fantastic, Yeah,
it certainly is. It is, yeah, and that was my experience too. Like when I sort of started back in 2010, when I decided that I really wanted to get involved in UFO investigation. It's just a matter of taking that leap. And once you do, that you can leap quite far, very quickly.
Yep. Yeah. So that's a base summary of the last 30 years, I guess.
Yeah. So just going back to the young boy that you saw, was he spectral? Was that kind of how he was? And how was he dressed? If so, did he look like he was from modern times or from?
No, well, he was kind of just, from what I can remember, he was wearing a white T-shirt, but that white T-shirt was really muddy and dirty. And I think from memory, I think he had blue shorts on. Now, rumor has it, I don't know the history fully, but rumor has it, Tookarook on the Mornington Peninsula used to be wetlands. Now, apparently the young boy died there, but I've never actually been able to find the history on him. Yeah.
Interesting. But
Yeah.
so that must have been a real wow moment for you to have something like that. You know, and did it scare you?
Yes. Yeah, I can remember it being very. At first, I thought someone had actually, like, there was a real boy standing at my bed, and that's why I screamed at my mum. You know, Mum, come and help! Like something's wrong. And then when she sort of told me about the ghost thing, of course, I didn't understand it the way I understand it now. So in my head, it was, monsters and really bad stuff. Like, so I thought it was a bit scary back then. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Monte Cristo is for those, I have had Monte Cristo on this show. I'm sure I did going back through the Rolodex in my head. I'm pretty sure I did do a little segment on the Monte Cristo mansion. In Australia, it's a very famous old homestead, and it's quite big too. It's a big double-story, sort of well over 100 years. I'm not sure how old it is, but it's a very old place with a very tragic history over a long period of time.
Yeah.
What sort of experiences did you have when you were at the Monte Cristo?
Well, I can remember the first one that really comes into my head is, and funnily enough, I was actually watching a YouTube video on Monte Cristo the other night, and it's recent. I think it was only made maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And the chair I'm about to talk to you about was actually still in that video, and that was quite like, oh my God, that was just 20 years ago, and it's still there. But there, up the stairs, there was this chair, and I remember going up the stairs and walking past the chair and noticing that there were indents in the chair as if someone was sitting in it.
Okay.
Was sitting in it. So then we went into the room where the tour was. It was one of the, I think it was one of the bedrooms. And I stood at the door and listening to the tour go on. And I remember looking back down at the chair, and those indents had gone. And I just kind of found that a bit strange. And then there was another incident out in the barn where I actually saw a shadow figure disappear in behind one of the wagons. Yeah, there was quite a few things happened out there. I saw there's a lady on the balcony that I think had been pushed off the balcony from memory. I remember catching like a glimpse of her, or what I thought was her. But that I don't know. Have you ever actually been to Monte Cristo?
No, I haven't had that opportunity to go. And when you get the chance, I will.
As you come into the gates, you're not looking straight at the building. It's actually on your left as you come in the gates. But as you do catch a glimpse of it, it's got a really haunting kind of vibe to it. I don't know. I think it's just the way it's built, its design, its architecture is just quite haunting in itself. And I think that can lay that kind of energy for you already as you coming into the land.
So were they mainly visual experiences, or did you have did you have feelings as well, like panic or sadness, or
there was I can remember I felt sick in the building. Nearly every time I went into the building I would feel just not nauseous, I guess would be the best term, but not on a physical sense. It's kind of hard to explain. Like I just didn't feel right. I didn't feel myself. But more visually I would see things.
Look, I tend to find that paranormal experiences usually happen when you're least expecting them.
Yes.
That's just how the phenomenon works, in my opinion. I've said many times you can look at the sky for nights on end and see nothing, but one night you go out there and you see something incredible, and it's usually
that's so right.
People talk about intention too, like having the intent of seeing something, and that does work too. I understand as well, but for me, my experiences, whether they've been ghostly or whether they've been UFOs, has always been when I have no intention. Me personally have had that experience.
Yes, I agree with you there. Like for me personally, it's been very much the same. I think I've had more paranormal phenomena happen around me when I'm not investigating and least expecting it than what I have when I've actually been like at a location.
Yeah. And have your thoughts on the paranormal, have they changed over the years as to what it actually is, or has your experience and belief been constant over that time?
No, it's definitely changed. I think the more you learn about it, the more you tend to theorize a little bit, and then, you know, you'll come to a conclusion or you know, something. I remember as a kid, not even having really much thought as to where the paranormal might exist or whatnot. But then as I've gotten older, I've definitely developed some theories on it. Yeah. One theory I think is it's dimensional. That's my main theory that I run with. And I think all aliens and I think cryptids, they're all in that same dimension. I think it's all very connected.
Yeah. I mean, I love watching all the scary videos on YouTube, and you know, and half of them are all caught by CCTV, doorbell cameras, building cameras, trail cameras.
Yeah.
You know, they do the work for us in this day and age now. You know, so we don't have to sit out there shivering alone at night.
No, that's right.
Waiting
for hours.
Yeah, these cameras bring it all up here for hours in the cold.
Yeah,
and it does. We are capturing these things all the time now.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, it was getting footage was a gem in the past. You know, back in the earlier days, you know, footage was hard to get.
Yeah.
No one had cameras, and now there's just this. It's just an outpouring of information that's out there.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you about this dimensionality aspect of all of this. That you know, that our reality is very pliable and flexible and phrase, or however you want to talk about it, and at different times for different reasons or for no reason, they interlink and cross over, and the camera certainly can pick up, you know, the shadow beings and the other images that are out there that you see, really weird looking people at times.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely, you know, a track that I think is worth exploring further.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Yeah. I think the fact that we've got cameras in our hands all the time now, don't we, with our smartphones? You know, like you said, there's, you know, CCTV, there's street cameras, there's the doorbell things now. So, yeah, we're just seeing more and more phenomena happening. And I think a lot of people think that it's happening a lot more. But I don't think it is. I think it's always been the same. I think it's just now that we've got better technology we're seeing it more, you know.
Yeah, because every day there's a new video.
There's something,
something that's put up on the gram or TikTok or you know, or YouTube. There's always something coming up out there that's that we can look at and go, wow. And yeah, it definitely is something that's that I think is going to continue into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as technology advances, we will see more and more of it, and possibly different phenomena coming through too. Like, I think there's a whole world in that supernatural realm that's still unexplored. You know, we've got certain things like our ghosts and our aliens and things like that, but I think there's more there. I think, yeah.
Do you find that also over the, you know, 30 odd years of being, you know, around the phenomena and having it, because what I find is you can come and go from the paranormal in your life. Like there's periods of time when you're right into it, and then there's other periods of time when you're out of it and you're not interested in it at all. Life gets in the way. But it's always there, like an old friend. Like, you know, it's always not too far away. Have you found that your experiences have varied over the years in their intensity, or is it consistent? Or is it getting stronger the older you get?
I think that's actually getting stronger the older I get, but that could be because I'm more involved in it now too. I went through a period of time in my kind of late 20s to early 30s where I wasn't involved in it at all, other than maybe doing a little bit of YouTubing here and there. And of course, I wasn't having any experiences. Life was a bit chaotic, and I was, you know, just so focused on life at that point. But I think, I think the older I'm sorry, this.
That's all right. Reason to do live, guys. You know, like
you will be on the internet. The older I get, the more experiences I am having, and I've just sort of started my, I guess people call it your spiritual journey. So I'm finding that I'm having a lot more personal paranormal experiences outside of the business and outside of the tours as well. And I think that's just because I'm opening myself up a bit more to it. So I think definitely as I'm getting older, it's getting more phenomena, but I am kind of looking for it too. So yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Seek and you shall find.
Yes, exactly.
That's an old chestnut that I've heard before, and one that I believe in quite well.
Yep.
So let's have a little bit of a chat about the group itself. So
Yep.
I went onto the website, and it's kind of, from what I can see, looking around the place, and then there may be other examples or not, but it's a group that's not ghost tours.
No.
So, and I think that's a big difference, because ghost tours tend to have the cheap scares and everyone oohs and ahs, and someone stamps their foot or bangs the door or something, and everybody goes crazy, and we all had a great time.
Yeah.
And you're in the old Melbourne jail, or you're somewhere where there's hanging people, and you expect all that to happen in there, and it's a great experience, and that's a really interesting thing.
That's
but
fun.
I think what you guys are doing is perhaps bringing a deeper dimension to the whole paranormal and history. Like, you're combining the two, and neither one is sort of dominating the other. Have I got that right? Or
that's you. Yeah, we're definitely not a ghost tour company, and I've my team will have a giggle at that because I say it all the time. The difference between us with a ghost tour, like you were saying, some of that can be a bit more for entertainment. But a lot of the ghost tours, they know what spirits are at a location, and they'll kind of pinpoint out, like, for example, at a jail, they'll say it's such and such's jail, and he's been seen here, and things like that. 9 times out of 10 at a location, unless it's a location we've been to previously, we don't know if we're going to make contact with any spirit at all. So I often say to our customers before a tour starts, you might not have any experience whatsoever. We might not get anything come through on the equipment, and it might just turn out to be just a straight history tour, and that's it. So what our company does, it's different, is we essentially investigate and discuss the history of a location, and then we chuck a paranormal investigation in on top of that and try and make contact with any possible spirits that are still on that location from the history. So we try and always relate the investigation to the history. Yeah. So that's the difference, like, between us and a standard ghost tour.
Yeah. And you're not just going to the standard ghost tour locations. You could go to anywhere, really.
Anywhere, yeah. We've got high schools we do. There's a couple of cemeteries we do. Where else have we got? Oh, we've got Coal Creek here in Victoria.
Yeah, which is another historical town for those who don't know.
So it's not your typical jails or your asylums or old hospitals or anything like that. Our main interest, like our main focus when we're looking for locations, is history. We want to make sure it's really rich in history and has a really good history. Yeah, and that kind of drives us to picking a location.
So the history is driving it more so than the hope of paranormal.
Yeah, but I mean, there is a big paranormal aspect to it. But just when it comes to the scouting of new locations, we definitely try and look for something that's got a really good history. Not so much anything that's got hauntings, although that's a plus if there is a history of hauntings. But more so just that historical value that we can bring.
And it goes beyond that too, because I've sort of had a bit of a look online on the website, and it says that you'll do haunted home or business investigations, and there's plenty of haunted businesses out there. There certainly is. And you also offer house cleansing and spirit relief.
So we do offer like private dwelling investigations. So if anyone thinks that they've possibly got a haunting going on at their home, I'll take a team in, just a few of us. It won't be the whole team, and we'll investigate that. And that can take months to do if you do it properly. We do cleansings, and we have mediums that'll offer readings as well and things like that. So it is a pretty broad business. Yeah.
And so, like, say with a haunted home, you would, what would that process be like? Obviously it contacts you, and then what happens after that?
They reach out to me, and what I try and do is, if they don't have a timeline of activity that's happened, I will give them like a 1 month to 3 month period, unless it's dangerous, unless they're having poltergeist activity, then I'll, go in straight away. But if it's just like little, like they're hearing things or, doors are slamming or something like that, what I'll try and do is get them to record that. So give me the time and the date that's happening over sort of a 1 to 3 month period. And then from there, I'll gather that and have a look. Because sometimes, depending on the type of haunting you're looking at, if it's a residual haunting, sometimes it can be in a pattern. So you'll get the same phenomena happening at the same time of the day or things like that. So I kind of look at that, and then I'll go in and take my team, usually 2 or 3 investigators and a medium, and we'll go in and spend a night, like a full night, doing an investigation, not just a couple of hours. It'll be like an overnight situation. And try and figure out what's going on, whether it's a residual haunting, whether they've got an attachment, or whether it's a previous owner that's come back to have, they're upset with the new owners or something of the location,
I don't like those watercolors you've done,
Hey, sorry?
I don't like those watercolors you've done.
Exactly. I don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. Those curtains look terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. So with privates, I tend to, it's a bit of a process, only because we all have strange phenomena happen in our homes sometimes, and it can be very easily explainable. So if someone was to reach out and say, "Oh, I saw my couch cushion fall off the couch. My house is haunted." It's like, well, it might not be.
Right, exactly.
It might not be. So that's why I try and make sure these guys have had more than once, phenomena happen, and then if they can record it over a period of time, then even better. And
what's sort of the tipping point for that? Like, what sort of key indicators are you sort of looking for?
I try and get lots of different phenomena happening. So if someone was to reach out to me and say, I'm hearing voices, the doors are slamming, things are being moved, there's sort of 3 specific different, like you've got your audible phenomena, your physical phenomena happening, if they're feeling like they're being touched, things like that. Like the more phenomena that is different, then the better. And that's when I'll kind of look at it and go, okay, there's possibility that you do have a haunting.
Yeah. You would have. Look, you've got to live your life,
Yeah.
You would have loved my auntie's house in Bayswater, and Bayswater's a eastern suburb in Melbourne. And when I was about 12, I've got to share my ghost story.
Yeah, of course.
when I was about 12, my auntie had this house in Bayswater, and we'd come from Bairnsdale, go down and stay there. And she would sort of casually say that, there's some strange, we think the house is haunted, It's a few strange things happen. And this is like about 1982, or around that time. And, creep shows being advertised on the TV in the house at the same time. So I'm sitting in this house like, but this is talking about multi-layering things that occurred in that particular house. So she had a bull terrier dog, and the bull terrier would stand and bark into one corner in the room. And she'd do it like constantly and consistently. And we'd stand there and watch her go, barking into the corner. Yeah. And then that was one thing. And then she'd talk about footsteps. And down the end of the house there was a big pool room where they had a big billiard table down there. Yep. And one afternoon I had the privilege of staying there by myself. They all went out, and for some reason I stayed in the house. And I could hear, as plain as day, footsteps down in the pool room, right? Like clomp, 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 and then coming up the hallway, clomp, 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 clomp. Coming up the central hallway, I could hear this clomp, 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 clomp coming up the thing. I just lost it, and I ran outside, and I ran down, and I sat on the next to the mailbox until my auntie and mum came home. I was just, and then my auntie said, "Oh yeah, we hear that all the time." And then she said that one other time she said that she was in the bathroom, and one of the towels on the rack started just shaking, like absolutely going crazy. Like there was no windows open or anything like that, and the thing was just shaking. And it was a house you'd go into, and you walked into that house, and it had a creepy feel to it, and for no real reason. But that's a brief of my experience that I had, and perhaps that's the stuff you're looking for when you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's audio, there's visual. You know, the audio sound that I'm referring to are the footsteps. You know,
Yeah.
you've got a dog looking at something in the corner and barking.
Yeah. The dog would always be looking at something.
Yeah, you got the towel moving by itself. Like, yeah, definitely. If someone was to contact me and say like all those three phenomena, then I'd definitely look at investigating that place. Yeah.
Yeah. It really was a crazy house, and her husband said the same thing.
Yeah.
And they just seemed to live with it though. Like, you know, that was which is an interesting aspect, isn't it? You know, like we all think it's the Exorcist, don't we? You know, and well, Poltergeist, you know.
I know.
And but they lived there for quite a long time, and it didn't spook them out the door.
No, well, the people that own Monte Cristo, they used to live in the building. I'm not sure if they still do, but yeah, they used to sleep in the bedrooms and that there. Yeah, it's like meant to be Australia's most haunted house, and they're like, yeah, whatever.
Well, it's what you get used to, isn't it? You know,
that's it. Yeah,
you know, I mean, unless you've got like violent activity, that's a different thing altogether. You've got violent activity where, you know, people are being choked or you know, you talk about being pressed down or sat on or any of those sort of things. You know, then that's a bit of a different situation. But if it's all that sort of more benign or mischievous type of behaviour, that's something that you can sort of live with. And I think once you sort of get used to the idea that you're not here alone in a property, that you know, that something actually is going on here, maybe you can find that happy place and live with it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think TV and movies have kind of made it, I don't know, because everything's so scary in horror movies and stuff when it comes to ghosts, and the reality of it is it's just not like that. You know, there's no, you know, black-haired, sunken-eyed woman going to come jumping at your face when you walk through the door and things. That's just not how it works, you know. If it does, well, then you've got bigger problems than just a standard paranormal haunting. Like,
you definitely want to get out of there. That's for sure. So and I'm looking a bit further too. I see that the group is also obviously does historical research, historical reports, and you offer historians to assist in any project or event, and you'll even do a hens night or a birthday trial.
Yeah, we haven't actually done any of them yet. I'd like to do a hens night or something like that. Like, I think it'd be fun. Like, because we do get just touching back on that, how TV and movies have kind of made the paranormal world terrifying for some people. We do get people come on tours and they're petrified. They won't even hold a K2 meter. They're so scared. That's something, you know, that phenomena that when it happens, it's going to hurt them. And it's like, it's, you know, it won't. Like, I promise you it won't. But yeah, like it. But I think, I think I could tap into that on a hens night, you know, and have a really good time. Like,
I've done two brief quick stories of a couple of Brooklyn ghost tours. I did Walhalla, which is an old abandoned gold town up in Gippsland here, and the big scare they had for that was they walk you over to the old mines, and then you say, listen, you're listening, and then you can hear these mine carts moving around in there, and this mine's been abandoned for so long, and it's like, oh my God, we can hear these carts moving around. Oh my God, you know, everyone's peeking, you know, and you know, and then something comes up and bashes on the door, and everybody freaks out, and it's some guy that's in there, you know, and it gives everybody the buzz. And then when I went to Port Arthur in Tasmania, which is another famous place for ghost tours, they did a few jump scares and stuff that sent people troppo as well. So you know, but this is and that's what people are looking for. Like they want that universal scare type of thing. You go on a ghost tour, then I think that, you know, it's a bit disappointing. But with what you guys are doing, it's slightly different to that. You're not necessarily guaranteeing a scare. In fact, you're probably not going to get a scare.
No, because we're quite, and it's not to say that those people that run the ghost tours aren't serious about it, but we come at it from a very different angle. We're not, I mean, we're for entertainment. Obviously, we're a tour group. We want our customers to have a good time, but we're not we're not that gimmick, I guess, for lack of a better term, and for no disrespect towards any other tour group either. We come at it from more of that science-based aspect. Like all of us that are in the paranormal side of it, we're passionate about the paranormal, and we, like, all of us have that same kind of goal and dream, and that's to, you know, prove its existence as such. So yeah, we're more of a serious kind of group, rather than just the standard ghost tour.
So researching and tapping into the history, finding out all you can find out about a particular location. And what are some of the locations that you've been to? I mean, you mentioned schools before, cemeteries. What other sort of places has the group conducted their tours and investigations?
Okay, so one of our first locations was actually Tyab Cemetery.
That's
and that's on the peninsula. That's a really good location. Every time we go there, we get phenomena happen. The Mornington, I think it's the Mornington High School, or it might be the Yarraville School. I actually haven't been on that tour yet, so I'm not too certain about that one. We do Mount Martha Community House. That every time we go there, there's footsteps, there's audible voices you can hear. There's our historian Alana had her first ever paranormal experience there, and it actually turned her from being a skeptic to a full-on believer in the paranormal world. What else have we got? We've got Coal Creek. We've got now Tynong, but that's more on our true crime kind of aspect now that we're branching out into. We've got some old homesteads, the Collins Settlement down in Sereno. So we've got kind of a broad range of sort of indoor and outdoor locations.
Has Coal Creek produced anything at all? That being I think it's an old mining town.
Yeah, I think the team went there about a month ago, maybe 5-6 weeks ago, and they had a really good night. I'm due to go down there on our next one, which I think is on the 14th of October. So I'll know, you know, for certain whether there's good activity. But actually, yes, on Saturday our team went to the Westall UFO site. And they picked up phenomenal readings on the K2. They actually measured. They had 2 K2s, and they were actually walking around. It was both K2s were just going crazy to the red. And they actually found out that just by walking around and trying to locate this energy field that the K2s were picking up, it was in a circle. The shape of it was in a circle. And when they actually stepped outside of the circle, the K2 meters had stopped working. They'd come back into the circle, and the K2 meters would start going off again. So like that. They were really, really impressed with Westall. Like, they want to go again. So that I think that's going to become probably a permanent location for us.
So for those who are listening who don't know what we're talking about, on the 6th of April 1966, there was a mass schoolyard UFO encounter at the Westall High School, and 150 to 200 students and teachers all saw these objects at about 11 o'clock in the morning fly across, and they went down to this little parkland nearby where there's these really strange trees that are still there to this day, and some of the objects landed on the ground in that area, and they've got covered up for years. You know, no one, it just got totally covered up, and it's gradually received a lot of traction in through the documentary Westall 66, A Suburban Mystery. Rosie Jones and Shane Ryan put a lot of energy into that, and Shane continues the work, bringing all he can find out about Westall. So, it's very interesting to hear that the group has been to that location, because there's the school and there's the parkland. I've been there many, many times. It really is a fascinating case, and I will do an episode on Westall here on this show too. So we do get that, but that's interesting that they went there, because it's not a typical ghost encounter, because it really is. It's from a UFO UAP,
the different perspective. Well, that's what we're trying to now we're looking at kind of branching out into those other areas of the supernatural or paranormal world, you know, with UFOs and I'd like to even start looking at cryptids and things like that as well.
Yeah.
That's why we've just started the true crime kind of aspect too. Like true crime's not really paranormal, but it's definitely a history-based kind of thing when you can look back at cold cases and have a discussion about them. And that's what Tynong was for us. It was more, wasn't so much about the investigation, the paranormal investigation. It was more so about bringing that case to the forefront again and having just a sit-down kind of discussion about it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give one for you. Marathon Road, Bryagalong, and Link Road. That's just something for you to think about, because I know you're in that area. Out at Marathon Road, there was a great UFO case out there with an object. A deer hunter had gone out with his godson early in the morning, and they'd travelled out to Valencia Creek. And as they went out there, they were going to go out that way, out to that area. And what happened was it had been floods, so they had to drive back around into Stratford and go another way. And as they turned around at Valencia Creek, they came back. He noticed this red light off to the side, and this red light started pacing their car all the way down. If he sped up, it sped up. If he slowed down, it slowed down.
Wow!
And as he came into Stratford, it took off ahead of him. And it flew up, and in Stratford there's a crossroad where the pub is, or where the bar, hotel, we're going to call it, and the object hovered above the crossroad there. And as his car approached, the object dove down at the car, and it came straight down at the car. He put the brakes on, and then it shot straight back again. And he turned, and they continued out to go hunting, and then the object took off. They just saw it take off, and they drove out to their location, right? And when they got to the location, get this, the object was waiting for them.
Oh, see, I got a theory about aliens and that. Go on, sorry, go on, yeah.
And so as it was hovering there, this little probe came out from the craft, and it travelled across to a paddock on the other side of the hill, and it landed on the ground, this probe, and it sat there for a few minutes, and then it came back to the craft, up into the craft. This is in Bryagalong, and went up into the thing, and then this object slowly, trying to get my hand right on the camera, straight up into the sky. Wow. And just off that road, there's another road called Link Road, and there was a really good Yowie encounter on there when a couple were driving up to Wombat Cottages, which is like an Airbnb, you can stay up there, and they were driving up there about 9 o'clock one night. This is about 2012, and they saw really recent. They saw what they described as Chewbacca walked across the road in front of them. So this tall, bipedal, 8 foot tall, covered in red hair man walked across the road in front of them, and they just stopped the car and looked like this. And then they drove, and the Chewbacca just crossed the road, and then they drove off. And when they got to where they were staying, he said to her, "Do you want to talk about it?" And she says, "No, I don't want to talk about it again." So that's just an example of the sort of stuff that you can find in different areas, and you know, like a group went out there, you'd probably get some interesting stuff as well. So that's me talking too much, but that's just some examples of, and this is the thing about the paranormal too. There's all these things that you just never know about, you never hear about, and then you've got to really start digging in to find all these truly magnificent things that have happened in Australia and around the world.
Yeah, well, I'm new to this area, so like hearing stories like that's truly fascinating to me. Like, and it just gives me a bit of a pinpoint location of, you know, where maybe I could go and start looking for things. And
I'll send you some maps.
Yeah, that'd be great.
yeah. No, that's all good. And so, just also going back to the group. So, what's the team comprised of? What sort of people are on the team? What's their skill sets, and just explain for us a little bit about that.
Okay, so we've got historians, we've got mediums and spiritualists, we've got our investigators, we've got people that just purely work behind the scenes doing research and things of locations. But we all bring, in each of those elements, we're all very passionate about it. So we all bring that passion to the group and to the tour. We all get along well. We're all really friendly and happy. We've kind of like a family. Like, that's the way we've adapted it. We're like a family, you know. These guys are some of my best friends. It's fantastic to be able to work with people who are just as passionate about something as you are. Just it makes it easy. It's and you just really enjoy doing what you're doing when you've got a great group of people together like we do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a special thing when you can achieve it.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's when being in groups is at its best, when you've got that happening and everyone's on the same page and you're all heading in the same direction. That's the best of it.
Absolutely. And what I like about it too is for all of us, it's not just a job that we go and do on a Friday and Saturday night. Like, it doesn't end at the end of our tour. Like, for most of us, we then go home and we continue our research on the paranormal, or we continue researching, the local history of an area or something. It's not a job. Like like there's just so much passion involved in what we do, which I think is just brilliant, Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely the best way to go. Now, I'd just like to ask the question, attendees who've been along to your various sessions, what have they experienced?
A lot of them, I think a lot of people come along mainly for the history. Some people do come along because they're expecting a bit of a fright or to get a bit of a scare, but we've had people fall ill on our tours from that paranormal energy that goes on. We've had people go from being skeptic to a believer because we've sort of, had an experience, or they've had an experience. Like because we're doing the investigation together as a whole unit. So whatever we're as an investigator, with the spirit box or the K2, so they're experiencing everything that we're experiencing on that tour as well. Yeah. I think that's great. I think that adds just to that fun element to it, and we try and get the customers involved in what we do. So we'll hand them the equipment as well to do their own to lead their own investigation or something. Yeah.
That is really good, just to give people that real time experience of feeling like they're a part of an actual.
They're a part of it. Yeah.
Real. This is an investigation, and I'm along. You might be there for the history, and the history is always interesting. No doubt about that. And if you get this other connection on top of it, and it's not a party guarantee, that's really really good too.
Yeah, I like to say to people that paranormal investigating is very much like fishing. You can go to a location and chuck your rod in and not get a bite for hours and go home. And then the next day you can go back to the same location, chuck your rod in, and you'll get bite after bite after bite after bite. And paranormal investigating is very much like that. It's,
it's like the cartoon of the singing frog. He never sings when you want him to, and he sings when you want him to. That's that old.
That cartoon.
That's what the paranormal is like.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it's like. Yeah.
You can stand up there and go, the ghosts are going to appear, and nothing happens. And that's the pressure for a ghost tour, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the pressure with a ghost tour. Whereas coming at it from a different angle, you kind of eliminate that sort of expectation. It's like a whale watching. Are we going to see a whale? We paid good money to see a whale. We want to see a whale. So and when the whales aren't there, it's kind of like, oh well, So, and what sort of people have attended the group's events? Like, what sort of cross section of society are you seeing coming along?
Well, everyone. We get all age demographics. We've had teenagers there. We've had 60, 70-year-olds there. We get, there's no, I wouldn't say there's like a set type of person that comes along. I think just anyone who happens to be interested in history or paranormal, or both of those things together. I think they just really enjoy that event, that whole idea. And we try and our prices are pretty good too, and we try and keep that, especially in today's economy where everything's going up. We've actually brought our prices down so people, it's more affordable for people, so they can still come along and enjoy what we do.
Yeah, that's what it's like when you're running groups. Like, you've got to find that price point where it's going to make people come, and it's not going to turn them off because they think it's too expensive or too exy or what am I going to get for my money? You've got to keep the prices, at that as reasonable as you possibly can. But there's always costs. So,
to some locations, we have to actually pay to use a location and things like that. So I mean, I'd do it for nothing. I would absolutely go along and do an investigation for nothing. I don't expect any money from it at all. But yeah, unfortunately, that's just the way, with a business like that, we've got to charge, but we do just try and keep it as minimal as we possibly can for our customers, so they can come along and have a good time and they haven't, blown their budget. They can buy bread and milk next week.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. We all need to do that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So how often are you having these? Is it monthly, or how often are you guys holding events?
Well, usually we're actually, I think, pretty booked from October through to January, and I'm like, that's every Friday and Saturday for the next 4 months. I think we've got locations lined up. So it's something that in the past, when we were sort of first starting up, and of course with COVID, we obviously had to put a stop to it for a while. We had a tour maybe once a fortnight, once every 3 weeks, but now we're actually running tours weekly. So we're getting a lot busier. And I think, we've got our Facebook group as well. And I think the more people that join that, and then they, because we share our links obviously on there to our tours and stuff. And I think people really like the idea that it's not a ghost tour as well. I think people come along for that as well, because they've done the ghost tours and I think they are looking for a different experience. And I think that hands-on paranormal investigation that we give them, I think people really like that. And they, we've got a lot of repeat customers that come, to, 2 or 3 of our tours every month, they'll turn up. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then if you get really into it, you join the group.
Yeah, you join the group.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because that's an excellent thing. And I know, like last time we spoke, you told us about an incident you had down on the beach, down on the Mornington Peninsula, where you. Would you like to share that with us? That's
actually. Yeah, that's at one of our locations, Collins Settlement, and we were walking along. The team and I had been there for an investigation, and we're walking along the boardwalk that kind of goes out around a bit of a rock ledge. And as we're coming back, we weren't investigating. The night had kind of ended, and we're just walking back, and I saw a man standing kind of at the end of the boardwalk, like more further up from us, and he was facing the water, so he was sort of side on to me. And I remember just going, but at the time I'm looking back to see if all my team are with me, and they were all behind me. And I just looked and blown away, and I'm like, guys, are you seeing what I'm seeing? None of them saw it. It was just me. And I think it was from the time period of when, I guess when that area was being colonized. Because he was wearing like a white shirt. It wasn't a tailored shirt, and it was kind of open. Like I could see that it was open in a V at the front, and it was kind of rolled sleeves. But he had like this, I guess, like a khaki tattered kind of vest over the top. And he was just standing looking at the ocean. And when I've seen him, he's looked around at me and then looked back and just kind of faded away. And that whole experience was maybe 5 to 10 seconds long. It was, but that just blew my mind. And even though I've had so many experiences over the years and I've seen a lot, heard a lot, I still get so, I don't know, I kind of feel like it's a privilege when I see something like that. Like, I don't know. And I'll cry sometimes. It gets so overwhelming, I guess would probably be the better term. That not in a negative way. It's, truly, I truly do see it as a privilege if I get to see an apparition like that, when they can present themselves, because I know it's a lot of energy for spirit to do that. So when I do get the privilege to see something like that, it's amazing. But yeah, none of the team saw it. And of course I'm losing my mind, like, oh my God, crazy. It was fantastic. Yeah.
No, that's really, really good. So, well, thank you so much, Deanne, for joining me on this episode of Unexplained Phenomena Australia. And how do people get in contact with you or the group? What's the best channels?
So Facebook's probably the easiest one. So if you go onto Facebook and type and search for Mornington Peninsula Paranormal Society, will pop up. We're now, because we have branched out into further Victoria, so I'm obviously now up in Gippsland, and we're also doing the western sides of Victoria and Melbourne as well. We are changing our name, and it will be Victorian History, Heritage and Paranormal Society. That's a long, I know that's a mouthful, but you should still be able to find us at Mornington Peninsula Paranormal Society on Facebook, and we'll have our website there on that page for everyone to be able to click on and have a look at.
Excellent. Are you doing a YouTube channel with investigations?
We will be. Yeah, we will be in the future. Yeah, we haven't gotten that far yet. I think we need just a bit more camera equipment and things like that to be able to run that successfully. It is something I'm looking at actually branching out and doing now that I'm in Gippsland, even just on my phone, just filming stuff on my phone and putting it on our YouTube. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Oh, that's great. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I know I certainly have, and Deanne's very interesting to talk to.
Yeah,
and we'll get it back on again down the track to share some more interesting experiences with us. So thanks again, Deanne. And
no worries. Thank you for having me, Ben.
No worries. And we look forward to seeing everyone again next week. Thank you.